Okay, we're gonna wing it. I don't have any of my notes, but I think I know it well enough. Thank you so much. That's very loud. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys coming. This is a topic on building solutions from AI, from going from a problem to a prototype in just a couple of days. I'm John Davidson. Thanks for being here. I know it's Thursday afternoon. It's 2 o'clock. You probably still have lunch food hangover. I'm the founder of Cornice Labs, which is an AI-first consulting company. I'm also a solopreneur. I build all of my own AI-first products using AI to help me. I've been a product leader for about 15 years, and in that role, I'm responsible for figuring out what we build, when we build it, and how we bring it to market. And most importantly, I love solving problems. Today, I really want to focus on empowering you to solve a problem you care about. If one person walks out of here and they think they can do something better in the world, I've done my job. We're going to break this into two parts. In the first part, I'll talk about a big problem with a pretty small solution that I've been working on. And then after that, I'll talk about a couple of different ways that you can build your own prototypes, find problems, and solve those really quickly using AI. So my journey into kind of finding small problems and coming up with solutions for them started when I was introduced to a woman named Betsy. A year ago, Betsy had to quit her job to take care of her mom, who was diagnosed with dementia. And the first time I talked to her on the phone, she said something that stuck with me. It was this, exactly what I just said. This is when notes are helpful, right? Jeez, okay. But what really hit me was she was a parent. She was taking care of her elderly mother. She was also working full-time, and something had to give. And when we talked, what she told me was that she never wanted anyone to have to go through that period of their life, those challenges, in the same way, with no support and no nothing. And that really became what we tried to do and what we're trying to do with what we're calling Elder Caregiving Companion. But I think what's really important, this isn't just Betsy's problem. This is actually a pretty massive problem, as I found out as I did research and we went through this. There are 42 million unpaid elder caregivers in the United States. That's 1 out of every 6 adults. And a third of them have to reduce their work hours or quit their jobs because of it. Not surprisingly, somewhere between 50 and 70% of elder caregivers show some significant symptoms of depression. That's a huge bummer, but again, it's not just a Betsy problem. It's a small problem, it's a small entry from one person trying to figure out how we can solve their problem, but that problem is a pretty huge one. So I talked with Betsy and I was like, let's see if we can do an initial prototype. Let's try something. I use AI all the time. I think it can change the world. So I made a little GPT in ChatGPT. Betsy sent me a bunch of the knowledge she'd collected across all of these different websites, resources, everything that she'd found over the last year that had helped her. I threw it up into ChatGPT. I wrote a prompt. Whole thing took about 10 minutes and I sent it off to her. I was expecting to hear back in, I don't know, a couple days. She's busy. She's back to work now. But she got back to me almost immediately. She said, this would have saved me months of time. Super simple solution to a problem. There are some challenges. This is an amazing first prototype. I love using GPTs for first prototypes, but you get no data back. You don't know who used it. You don't know how they used it. You don't know what their prompts were. You don't know where it fell over. You just know that somebody out there used it. And I'm not a software engineer. I've never written a line of code in my life. I'm a product manager. But I was like, God, I've been using AI a lot. Maybe AI can help me code something. Maybe I can build something that will let us get the data we need back out of it. So in one short day, I built this. It's a super simple chat app. It has a back end where you can get knowledge, where the AI can get knowledge, and then it'll help them. Emotional support, advice, navigating healthcare, and it'll adapt. It'll have a conversation. We put this out into alpha testing, and the results were kind of amazing. People were like, this would have helped me so much, just having this one thing. And again, it only took about a day to build. using AI to do the coding. It's better for me because I get all the data back. I can see what people are prompting, where it's falling over, where it's not doing well, where it's doing great. But I'll show you the UI again. The UI is worse. It's terrible. I'm not a front-end engineer. This looks like garbage compared to the first one, but that's okay. Because what we're learning is we're prototyping and trying to learn how to solve that problem better and better, and we need that data back. One thing we did find, though, is that people were chatting, having these great conversations, but they were looking for local service providers. They'd say, can you find me doctors? They have these long conversations about their parents, their challenges. Can you find me doctors? What they really meant to say, what they really want to know is, can you find me doctors in Seattle or Boise or anywhere else that work with elderly patients with dementia and take my insurance? Well, if you've played around much with large language models, they are absolutely horrible at answering those kind of questions. They don't have up-to-date information, that kind of contact information. They'll just hallucinate. That is an example of when large language models will just start hallucinating to give you an answer. But, you know, I love playing around with AI. I love trying to find new ways to solve problems. There's an application out there, I don't know if you've used or tried Perplexity, but it's an AI-first search model. They have an API. And so in another short day, again, no notes. This is just the kind of structure of the application I built. And again, I didn't do any of the coding. It's very simple, very straightforward. React, TypeScript front end, Python with fast API to manage all of the API calls. The AI model I used was ChatGPT 4, super simple. I had the knowledge store with all that information, in Pinecone. And I needed all that data, so I dumped it out into Google Sheets so that not only I could see it, but Betsy could see it as well, and we could have conversations about what was happening there. But as I mentioned, people wanted search. So I started playing around with Perplexity's API. In another short day, I rebuilt the whole thing and added in a search functionality. And what I found is that Perplexity, it's really pretty naive. If you say, hey, Perplexity, find me some doctors, you just give it that prompt that people were giving it, you get garbage back. And so instead, what I did and figured out to do is I take their entire chat history, all the context. I know that they're looking for actual contact information for those people. So instead of just going to Perplexity and saying, I need some doctors, I take their query, I need some doctors, send that to ChatGPT with all of Perplexity's prompt guidelines. How do you make a really great prompt? What we know about that user and what they've talked about to date, and give all of that to ChatGPT. It gives me back a prompt that gets really great information from Perplexity's API. I send that over to Perplexity and then get back a list of doctors for them. Very little code on my part because I can't code, and kind of an amazing way to use Perplexity. Okay, that was just my journey into finding a small problem and in a couple of days, using AI to write the code, help me deploy it, figure out how to do all the things. Now I'm gonna talk about how do you actually go and build a prototype yourself. I'll give you a few different options. Only one of them is doing all the coding yourself. But I'm gonna start with how to think about a problem and how I think about it as a product manager. First of all, problems are everywhere. There are infinite problems out there. They aren't necessarily billion-dollar problems. They aren't $1,000 problems. In my not building elder caregiving companion work, I work on a whole bunch of other applications. And these aren't necessarily going to be billion-dollar business ideas. Some of them are in alpha testing. Some have legs. Some might be $10,000 business ideas. Some might go nowhere. But because I'm able to do it on my own with less work and less time, it opens up the opportunity to actually solve those $1,000 business ideas. And the thing I'll say that's important is if you're using AI and your app is very AI-based, it's so cheap, right? So the Elder Caregiving Companion, it took us 2 days to build. It costs us almost nothing to run. We can serve thousands of people for dollars. It's kind of an amazing model if you think about it. So the problems are everywhere. You got to find problems, but you also have to test your things with users. And it can get scary. Because I love this quote: "No plan survives first contact with the enemy." Although I prefer Steve Blank's rewording that no plan survives first contact with customers. You can have all the amazing ideas in the world. You can build the most beautiful thing imaginable. Somebody who has that problem you're trying to solve sees it and uses it, your plan is going to change. You throw it out the window immediately. What's really nice, though, is if you take the mindset of, what does that mean? It means you build something small. Build something that solves the smallest part of that problem you can and get it in front of somebody. They will start giving you feedback. Don't try to overbuild. And I often try to remind myself of this as I'm building all of these projects. You're working on a project. You're not building a company. You don't need to do all the things that a company needs. You may not need authentication. You may not need data storage. Try something small and something quick. So I'm a big, huge believer in lean startup methodology. It was very popular when I was starting out as a product manager. And a minimum viable product is really a way for you to put something in front of somebody that solves some problem for them. It creates some value for them. But it's not just designed to answer product questions or design questions or technical questions. Where it's most important is to test fundamental business hypotheses, usability, scalability potentially down the road. And so now we can talk about a couple of different ways you can create these prototypes with a fundamental business hypothesis. We'll start with a blazing fast one. And we need a fundamental business hypothesis. I'm going to keep using the elder caregiving one as an example. And our fundamental hypothesis that we needed to test was, will people interact with an AI if they're in this position, needing to care for an elderly parent? And will they get value out of it, having that conversation? So for our blazing fast prototype, we'll use a no-code tool, in this case, lovable.dev, although V0 from Vercel is very similar, and a super simple prompt. Here's our prompt. This is exactly what I typed in to lovable.dev. Create an app that's centered around an AI chatbot focused on helping people who are taking care of their elderly relatives who have dementia or Alzheimer's. Simple. This is what it came back with. Okay, it has a little bit of chat, has some trust, it has a little bit of call to action, resources, self-care tools. As we get down, it even gets to a contact number for me, which is kind of crazy. Let's see if it gets all the way there. Self-care trackers, it's kind of amazing, right, from that little prompt. There's the phone number. And now let's talk about it. The pros. This is insanely fast. It took me 5 minutes from when I started writing that prompt to when I had that application deployed and available for anyone on the internet, right? That's pretty powerful. It's basically complete. Minus the phone number, which I don't have, all I have to do is plug in my OpenAI API key, and this app works. And it's so easy to change. All you have to do, you keep prompting, you say, I don't want this, I want this, I want it to look different, I want it to function a little differently. And it very quickly makes those changes. We're talking new change, new features in a minute. Yeah. It does show you all the source code. You can push all the source code to GitHub for you so you can work from it from there. You actually see it working as it goes along, which is kind of amazing to watch your prompt turn into an app, just kind of, file by file by file by file really quickly. There are some cons though. I would say this isn't really focused on our fundamental hypothesis. Remember, our fundamental hypothesis was that people want to interact with this chatbot and they're getting value out of it. And that's a part of what it does, but there are a lot of other pieces around it. And I will say from experience, it's much easier to add in features than to delete features back out. Not even on Lovable. That's just a human psychological thing. And there is some limited backend complexity. When I built the original app, we had that knowledge store. That's not something that Lovable can do very well. That's okay. It's still a pretty good prototype. The question is, can we make a better prototype? So we're going to use the same no-code tool, lovable.dev, but we're going to talk about improving the prompt that goes into it. So we're going to start by effectively meta-prompting. And meta-prompting isn't that complicated. It's just using AI to help you create a better prompt. And in this case, the prompt I gave the AI was, you're a great product manager, and basically you're going to help me create a requirements document. And a requirements document is all the things that are in, all the things that are not in, what you're going to do, what you want to build. And I was very explicit. I don't want to overbuild. Time is of the essence. We're building a fast prototype here. Start by getting the context I needed. It's not a particularly amazing prompt, but it's a fast one. And really, you just want to start quickly. So I did this. I had about, I don't know, a 10-minute conversation with the AI about what I wanted to do, what I knew about the market and the audience and what I wanted to test. And this is the prompt it came up with. So instead of that short little first one, this has a user problem. I won't read it all. User problem, target audiences, features that are in, features I absolutely don't want in there, technical requirements if I want certain tech stack to be used. And when I put this into lovable.dev, I don't even need to scroll or show you a video. This is the entire app. It's hyper-focused on that problem that we're trying to solve. It is a call to action, a chatbot, and all I need to do is throw in my OpenAI key, which it'll prompt me to do. So super easy, and again, this is still insanely fast. This is 15 minutes from when I started prompting to when I had an app deployed. It's much more focused on our fundamental hypotheses, and it still has limited backend complexity, which is okay. But these are two pretty amazing ways that you can create a solution incredibly fast. But now we can talk about doing it all yourself. So building all or more of it directly with the LLMs, having them write the code, having them teach you how to do everything. So I'm going to start by introducing you to the team I work with. This is my AI PM, is one of the first people I talk to. This product manager is smart, sharp, no nonsense. I programmed it to be that way because that's who I like working with. They always do what's right for the business. My AI designer is named Alex. I like working with Alex. This is the only AI that has a name. But my AI designer is a little chattier, thinks a lot more about the user experience. It helps me refine that user experience. And the output of that is a document of this is what the user experience should be. And then I work with an architect, because if you've ever just tried to have AI write code for you, it can be kind of garbage if it doesn't have a pattern to follow and it doesn't know where it's going. So I have long conversations with the architect. And if you've been in software before and you've talked with architects and gotten deep into data models, you'll quickly understand why, because you need to figure a lot of that stuff out, and you can figure that out with the architect. Each of these are giving at the end a document where they are saying, the product manager is saying, here are our business requirements. The designer is saying, here are what it should look like on the front end, and the architect is getting deep into the weeds on how it should work. I hand all of these off to an AI engineer. And I say engineers because sometimes they're not that good. I'm gonna be honest. It's a little hit or miss. I keep refining the prompt and how I instantiate my engineer. Sometimes they just go off the rails. Sometimes they're not good. That's okay, because if they're not good, I have them tell me what they've done to date, package that up, and give it to the next engineer, and just let them work on it. And primarily when I'm doing this, I'm working in Claude or ChatGPT. If you want to ask about really detailed parts about that, I'm happy to talk about how that works. I tend to like Claude a little bit better for coding than OpenAI, but I have friends who really like using ChatGPT 01 to code. And the pros. If you really want to learn how AI works and you want to be really, really close and you want to understand it at a deep level, you will learn it doing this way. You will understand what it does well, what it does poorly, and you will get a lot better using it and turning it into your superpower. It will be focused on your fundamental hypothesis. I guarantee you, because everything you add, you have to build yourself. And you don't want to build anything more than you absolutely have to. The cons, it's time. This can take days to do. And it's complex. You're the one managing all that complexity. And you saw the UI I created. It's much worse. It's a much worse user experience. But I would say that's not what we're testing here on a lot of these prototypes. So what's best? None of them. There's no best. I would say whatever's best is what works for you to solve the problem you need to solve now. What you need to do is adapt and keep trying, because the AI models are changing out from under you. The tools you're using are changing out from under you, getting better day by day. And to keep up, even if you're just using something like lovable.dev, the state of the art and how that's going to work for you is going to change over time. And one more side note, again, no speaker notes. When you're thinking about finding good problems to solve, I talked about problems being everywhere. There's a session right after this, 99 Problems by Jenny Myers. I think it's 2 rooms over. And she's going to do an hour exercise to go from a really small problem to a couple of possible solutions in an hour. So I think that's a good supplement to this as well. So kind of close out of a couple of learnings of things that I've learned building these apps. I've built about 50 or 60 prototypes across 10 different product ideas in the last couple of months, all using this AI model, using AI engineers, AI design, AI product, and a whole host of other people to do what I need to do. So here's what I've learned. Hopefully it can be helpful to you. The gap between seeing a problem and creating a solution is insanely small. The fact that I can go from, I have an idea for something, I can see a problem, I have an idea of something I want to create, whether that's using a custom GPT and taking 10 minutes, or using something like lovable.dev and having it take you 5. That's crazy. Prototype things as fast as you can, learn fast, fail fast. This is the cycle you go through as you build products. The nice thing about building products with AI, they're fast to build. If they don't work, you can throw them away. I've had series where I started something, it started coding it in a bad way. Toss it, do it again, same thing, toss it. Learn and repeat, and you will get better, and it will get better. But you can throw these things away, and it's kind of magical, honestly. This one's really important. I've learned this many times the hard way, and I see it time and time again. AI is so amazing at giving you good. It is not good at giving you great. Your human creativity, your ability to look at something and be like, that's not good enough, I need it better, that's what makes it great. And so you pushing back on the AI, forcing it to be better, is what makes it better. Otherwise, you get good. And good can be good, but I know you can be great. And the last one, people struggle to use AI to solve problems. And I don't think that's surprising, but the app I showed you at the beginning, it's a glorified chatbot. We're not doing that much beyond a simple prompt and using what the LLM does out of the box. But still, all of our users are using it and saying, this is amazing. This would help me. Because you're taking some of that work off of them and helping them do something better. Okay, the last thing I'll say is that I wish I had more notes. I did my best. I hope you stayed with me. I hope that was reasonably linear. Go out and try it. If you see a problem out in the world, think about it for a little bit. Think about those little problems, those little frustrations that you have, that your friends have, that you see in the world, and see if there's a way that you can go out and quickly try something, solve something, put it in front of somebody, even if you are your own user for that. Go out and do it. And the last thing is please use AI for good. It's so easy to think about some of these things being horrible and doing terrible things in the world. Even my elder care app, another couple lines of prompt, and that thing can do terrible things. Use AI for good. I really do think it's a superpower. If you want my designer and PM prompts, you're more than welcome to them. This is just a link to a Google Doc that I have. God, I hope it works. These are tuned for what I need in a designer and what I need in a PM. They are not kind of like godlike prompts. I can't guarantee they'll get what you need, but take them, tweak them, do something different, but try to use AI to solve problems you see in the world. Because I really do think that there are so many problems out there, and that if one of you leaves here more empowered to solve a problem, I've done my job. And that's the end. Short and sweet. Are there questions? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sure I'll have a lot.
Oh.
I thought it was really cool how you kind of split out your team of AI, different roles for your designer, architect. Can you speak more to that in terms of like what that's like interacting with those different personas? Would you benefit from having like a team of 10 or 12, or could you do it all with one superhuman person? Like,
you would have a hard time doing it with one super persona. And the main reason for that is that when you give the AI that first prompt, there's just like a person, there's only so much they can keep in their mind. And so I've tried putting other ones together. They sometimes get a little lost, right? I want my architect to be focused on architectural details. That one is all about data models and structures and how APIs are going to get constructed. My designer is just focused on the user experience. My product manager is just focused on all the business side of it. And then I hand that off to an engineer who is just focused on writing the code. On some small things, you can kind of get away with the architecture and then having that start writing code. But I found it works a lot better if you give it a very specific task with the right inputs.
Cool. So you're almost using a benefit to like give limited scope, limited knowledge.
Yep.
Almost having them not fight over it, but like.
Yeah. Well, and I'm in the middle, right? So there is some tension, right? So I often will go and have talk to my product manager and then take that to the architect, and the architect will make me think of other questions that I go back and have conversations with the product manager and shape those up, right? So it looks very similar to what you'd see in a lot of software development companies, right? This engineering, design, and product management working together. I'm just orchestrating them. And I think for this kind of thing, there's a talk earlier on agents. Agents are amazing. These aren't agents. These are prompts that I'm working with to try to get information. It's all human in the loop the whole time, because otherwise they kind of go off the rail. And as I said, they can get to something good, but I need them to get to something great. Like, I want these problems solved in a better way than AI can do on its own. It mimics creativity, but it's not creative. You're the one that makes it creative. You're the one that can look at it and say, oh, I have more context where I can make that better. I can tell it to be better. Yeah.
To piggyback on that question, did you generate a persona for your chatbot that interacts with your user?
Yeah. So the persona for that chatbot is, and I do have a prompt engineer that I work with as well sometimes, AI prompt engineer. The persona's tailored for that audience, right? It's someone who, if you're coming in and you're entering this app, you are stressed, right? Those numbers at the beginning, you might be depressed, you're anxious, you're dealing with something, you're dealing with constant new challenges that you've never dealt with before. And so the persona is caring, kind, patient, right? And those are exact words that I'm using to tell it what it's doing and what its job is. Because, AI, if you don't do some of that, if you don't tell it how it should interact, you're going to get whatever you get. But a huge part of thinking about how you build AI products and AI-centered products is making sure that that AI is talking with people and interacting with people in the way they want to be interacted with. It's as much a part of the user experience as, in a lot of ways, it's more of the user experience than where do you put a button and how does this other feature work, right? That is the core of how that works. And having that AI be all those things you need it to be for that person at that time is the most important thing you can be doing. And again, that's why I don't care as much the UI isn't perfect. What we're testing is that prompt. And what we're refining as we go through and we see more and more people using it is the prompt, how it works, what it does, what knowledge it has access to. That's the core of the application, and that's the thing we're proving out in the prototype. Yeah?
Do you find that the AIs are sufficient with security in types of, like, when you do build these products, do you feel like there's any kind of vulnerabilities, or do you have like an engineer that is double checking and verifying?
What kind of security are you thinking of?
I don't know, like a lot of levels apps have been kind of attacked by bots and things to use up all of your API credits and so let's money, which somebody who doesn't know how to code and made something that app wouldn't really know about, wouldn't know to prompt that into it.
I would not, and I probably should say this, and that's a really good question. I would probably not put out a lovable app like that into the wild. Like, what I'm talking about is like quick prototypes learning, right? Once you know that something works, then you have all sorts of options, right? If you can prototype something in Lovable, give it to 10 people, let them play around with it, learn from it, see what they're doing, see how you can make it better. If you want to build something on your own, like my architect always asks about security. Like, we're always talking about security, right? How do you put those guardrails in? There are other ways to think about those guardrails. If you're using something like AWS Bedrock, they make it super easy if you're building on top of it to just say, cool, add new guardrail. This is what you can never talk about. This is how far you can go, right? In just human speak. So I wouldn't kind of go crazy putting lovable apps out there in the world. That's a really good point. But they're kind of amazing for quick prototypes and being able to get back the information you need to make other choices about how you may go to market, scale, do the thing you want to do. Yeah.
So as you went through the 3 different options for building prototypes and what have you, it seemed like the hand-rolled option was the worst one. I mean, you had the statement that neither are best or worse, but it could take more time and didn't have the same level of user experience. So I guess it's a multi-part question. Do you think about using those at different points within your development? If so, at what point do you use the hand-rolled version of that?
Yeah. So I would say I sometimes will do the very first prototype in Lovable to just kind of like understand what it could look like, what it needs to do. I pretty quickly do the hand-rolled approach, partially because I'm getting quicker and quicker at it. That the more you do it, the faster you get. So it may take a day the first time. You may be able to stand up an app in 3 hours the second time. You can move pretty quickly and you get better at using the AI. The reason I would say to use it is for 2 reasons. One is you can build much more scalable software. You have flexibility in how you build things. You have a much more powerful backend that you can do. A lot of the no-code solutions are really primarily front end. The other, let's see. Yeah, so it is maybe the worst of the options in some way, but it's not necessarily the worst of the options depending on what you're trying to get out of it. The other thing I would say is that there are some hybrid options that I've been playing around with that I haven't totally gotten to work yet, about things like using Lovable or some of these no-code front ends to just build the front end, being very explicit about what the API contracts are between them, and then building the backends myself, where I have a lot more flexibility. And so I think there's a real, that's where I would like to be able to go. I haven't quite cracked the code on doing it every time, but I think that's going to be what I try to do more of. So I think there are some hybrid versions of some of the no code and doing your own code techniques that will probably bear a lot of fruit. If I can build a front end in 5 or 10 minutes, have very clear API contracts, and then just build the back end myself, that would be much easier and take the stress off of me because my front ends suck. Anyone else? Yeah.
For your AI designer, are they able, the system or LLMs, are they able to give you back, or do you have them usually give you like actual designs, or is it mostly just text that you turn into prompts to use for the no-code?
They're usually giving me code. So I have not found them to be particularly great at giving me like hey, give me a design. They're usually writing code, and ideally it's something that they're writing where you can actually just see it within the chat tool. Like it'll just render that code, or you can force it to do that. The challenge is that it doesn't give very complicated ones. If you use something like Material UI, you can move much quicker. It'll deal with that a little better, but coding it up from scratch, but I usually just have it output code for me instead of, which effectively is the finished design, give that to the engineer, and then they're putting that into the app. Yeah.
You said you kind of come from a product background.
Mhm.
Do you find yourself either learning more by necessity or by desire, like about design, about software architecture? Like,
Yeah.
or are you still wearing your product hat and just having these tools do that for you? Like, what do you find?
I've always had to do that. I think all product managers have to do that and have to understand. You're kind of at the center, so you have to understand like a little bit about engineering, a little about design. But it's forced me to, like I said, get better at knowing what great looks like. I think that's maybe that was the biggest unlock for me, that it's not about, oh, I know everything about design, but I know when something looks bad and I know when something looks good. And I can say the same thing about the architecture, and I can say a little bit of the same thing about the code, right? This is not good enough, this is better, and trying to get it better and better and better is how I think about it. And yeah, I absolutely learn as I go along doing it. I don't think you can't get that deep into doing all these things without having to learn some of that. It's forced me to learn Python. I still can't write a lot of code, but I can read it really well now because I need to be able to read it. I need to be able to understand all those structures. And so I still have all the AI write everything, but I can go through and see what it's doing in real time and watch it code and have a pretty good idea of what's happening behind the scenes and where it might be screwing up. Cool. thank you for coming. I think that was blazing fast. You're very lucky that I didn't have my notes up here. And have a great rest of your afternoon. I hope you guys see good shows and good presentations. Thanks.